Hello everyone, good evening. Can you all please confirm if my voice is audible? Hello, good evening. Hello everyone, good evening. Can you all please confirm if my voice is audible? We'll wait for one more minute. Well, good evening everyone. Let's get started. First of all, thank you so much for joining this meeting. Well, we are going to discuss about what is data engineering. Now, you would have heard about data science, data analysis, or maybe even BI roles. Now, what is this data engineer? You would have heard in many websites, blogs, YouTubes. Now, what exactly is data engineering? We'll see in a very layman terms. Now, as part of this session, we'll discuss about what exactly is data engineering, how do you take this in a layman terms, and how the system has defined this data engineering, and well, why it is needed and why it is important. Now, as part of this session, we will cover all this 4 points. Now, as to give an agenda as well, every day we are going to conduct a certain topic about the complete data based technologies. Well, in order to start with, I'll give a situation. Just imagine if this happens. Well, it's a monsoon season. Imagine suddenly if it rains so heavily that you would never expected this much rain. And assuming that you are in the metro city, suddenly it rains. What happens? You can see the image. Well, most of the houses, you can see that the water has entered, and you can see the entire road is filled with water. And you can also see that certain objects are floating in the water, and there are a couple of cars which is also on floating on water. Now, is this a situation if it rains heavily? Of course, yes. If you have not expected this much rain and if you have not prepared for it, this is a consequence. Now, let's take one step ahead. What if it rains so heavily? The things which can happen is rainwater never finds a place to settle. Of course, water enters across the streets. Your normal life is affected. And you know why all this is happening? It is happening because you have not been prepared to handle this situation. You did not expect this heavy rain. There was no proper planning. And in fact, there is not even a rainwater harvesting. Now, this is a situation if it rains suddenly without knowing and without being prepared. Now, why can't we relate the same concept to our data? Now, again, I'm giving a situation. Again, imagine what if data flows from different systems now, which you have never expected. The data used to reach to your system maybe at certain rate, but now what is happening? It is coming from different data sources. It is coming from different databases, Excel, CSV files, Facebook, Google. Wherever you are running a business, assume that you are getting data from different data sources. Just like when it rains, you are not prepared. Here also, what if it the data is flowing from different source and you are not been prepared? What could be the consequence? Well, the consequence I would say is if data flows suddenly from different sources, the same example like water, here what we are doing is data never finds a place to settle. It will spread across the systems and it can also affect your business decisions. Well, your business depends completely on the data, and that data itself is not proper and it is not being maintained. How can you make decisions? The same way, what are the reasons that the data is flowing from different systems? Because of no proper data maintenance. Since the data is flowing suddenly, you don't know how to store, where to store, when to store. And the most importantly, you have been not prepared for handle this situation. Well, this is what happens when it rains heavily. You'll not be able to handle water. The same example I'm giving here, if data flows suddenly from different data sources, what could be the consequence? Now, in short, I can say if suddenly data is coming from different data sources, do you have the capacity to handle? That's the first question. Do you think your system can process the data? Do you think your system is capable of handling different variety of data? And for all these problems, where do you find the solution? Well, we are into the technology driven world where everything is now flexible for humans. Within a smartphone, you can do wonders. You can connect to anyone on this world because of just your smartphone and internet. With just staying at your home, you can order your things. Maybe you're ordering some food, you can still get it. If you're ordering some products, Amazon, still you can get it. You can still watch movies sitting at home. Now we are into the technology driven world, and of course it is expected that the data will flow from multiple systems. Now the question is, how do you handle the data? Well, this can happen if you were not prepared for your problem. Just like you never expected rain and suddenly it start raining and it's completely flooded. The same way, if the data is also not maintained in a proper way, there is high likely chance that your system can break. If it is not handled properly, it can break. Now that is what happens when you are running a business without even knowing how to maintain the data. Well, the next step is, okay, I got to know the problem. Now what is data engineering? I related with your heavy rain versus heavy data. Now what, as a data engineer, what we can do? What is the process involved? Well, the most importantly, you need to be prepared for the situation when there is a heavy data that is coming from the different data sources. You need to understand how the data is coming from different data source. How can you track the data? How can you be prepared for to handle heavy data situations? And the entire process, what you're going to do, right from extracting the data from different data systems and loading into a single data source, that is what data engineering. The process which we make sure the data is being extracted from different data sources and organizing at one place, we call it as data engineering. Well, not only just moving the data, in between you need some cleaning process, transformation process. According to the business, you need to add some additional informations. All this can also be done by using data engineering. Well, we all know that we get the data from social media platforms, Excel, CSV, database, cloud. There are n number of things you receive the data. Now how do you handle the data is a $1 million question. But what is data engineering is how to handle the data, how to make sure it is readily available for other systems work. That is where it is. This is important. Well, this is what the entire process is: extraction, transformation, loading. Now, why it is needed? So this is needed because the data can come from the different data sources. Well, you don't know where it is coming from. Some of them can come from Excel files, CSV files, cloud based all systems. Well, even in our case, we get lot of inquiries from LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Now do you think each and every system I can handle individually? Well, if that's the problem, I need 4 people or 5 people who have to sit in front of the system and who can take care of one single data source. Well, that's practically not possible in the real time. You need to bring everything into one umbrella and then start your next process. Well, we all know that more the data, better the predictions. In that way, just because you're getting the data from different data sources, you cannot go and ignore the data. Ignoring the data will hamper your business. Well, if I want to move the data from one system to other system, again we need not worry. Data engineering will help us to achieve this. Now, overall, I would say that if you don't have data engineering, you will have no data science, you will have no data analysis. This is a straightforward fact. Now, why am I saying this is, well, if the data itself is not clean, do you think you can improve your business? The data itself is not clean. Do you think you can improve your data quality? Do you think you can do reporting? Do you think you can do some model building? Never possible. Your data engineering is a very critical step, and that too, especially in this technology driven world, because the data will flow from different data sources. You need to manage it well. If you don't manage it, you cannot take your business to the next level. Well, if you're bringing the data from different data source, you can make some good decisions and you can take into the business improvement. Well, some of the times what happens is your data may not be up to the mark, or I would say that your data may not be in good clarity. It's like a cleaning is required. Now, who will do this cleaning? Well, don't worry. We still have data engineers who can help us. Well, I'll give an example. I'll give an example. Let's say this is your system. You're getting the data from Insta. You're getting the data from LinkedIn. You're getting the data from Facebook, WhatsApp. Now assume that the sources is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in every data source, let's say there is a age column. In this, maybe in WhatsApp they have around 1 year, 2 years. Maybe in Facebook they may have in months. And maybe in LinkedIn you have age as, let's say this is date of birth. This is date of birth. Now, can you calculate age with using date of birth? Possible. Well, you're getting the data from different data sources, and each data source is maintaining in a different format. Now, how do you go and organize it? Now, that is where your data engineering comes into picture. You can extract the data from different data sources. You can transform it, or you can even clean it, and finally you load it to one single data source. Well, that is what you're going to do in data engineering. Data engineering, you'll extract the data from different data sources, transform it well, and then load it into the system. Now, I'll give another example. Let's say gender. In data source 1, maybe you have like M and F. Maybe in data source 2, you have gender equal to male and female. Maybe in third data source, you have M, F, ME, FE, male, female. Now this is a variety of data storage. Now do you think this is really required to maintain in this formats? Definitely no. There is a single source where you can store it. You can either store it M or F. Why you need complete wordings? Why you need this mix-ups? Now that is where you will be doing all this using transformations. Well, I repeat what we have discussed. Imagine it suddenly rains. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. Why? Because you were not being prepared. And the consequences, the water will spread across the road, streets, everything. Similarly, what if the data also flows in such a way that you have been not prepared? In that case, what you can do is you need not know how much data you're going to receive. You don't know how much your system is going to perform. Now, all this becomes a challenge if the data is flowing from different systems. Well, now nothing to worry. We are completely going to build a source which will collect the data from different data source and organize it well. Now that is where your data engineering comes into picture. Now the next what we discuss is it really required? Of course, it is required. The reason is you need to come up with a solution end of the day to your clients, and that comes only if you have the actual data. Now imagine there is a data which is coming from 1 terabyte system. Okay, this is 10 GB, 12 GB, 24 GB, 36 GB. Now imagine data is flowing from different systems and you're maintaining in one system. Now if you're maintaining in one system, in that case, you have to be a careful person who can take care of the complete system in terms of data security, data breach, the quality of data, the transformation that is involved in the data clean. If the data is not clean, you have to provide the data cleaning steps. Well, all this, is it really possible to do by one person? And to answer your question, it is possible by a person called data engineer. Now, data engineer is a person who can collect the data from different data source according to the business, apply some transformations and clean the data. And finally, make sure the data is readily available to the end users. Well, that is what is a role of a data engineer. A person who understands the data, the person who cleans the data, the person who brings the data into one system, the person who organizes the data very well and pushes to the main data source, that person is like a data engineer. Now, what we have seen today is a very layman term of data engineering. Now, as a practice, we are going to discuss every day one topic. Now what we are going to see next, we are going to see, well, we are talking about data engineering. Now what are the tools and technologies we'll be using for data engineering? We got to know the problem, we got to know what we need to do, and the next question is how are we going to do? That is the next question. For that, we will be seeing in the next session. The next session will be having a video or a session of what are the tools and technologies involved in doing this process and how can you improve your career path. Now that is something which will be looking into the tomorrow's live class. Any questions? What we have discussed today is basic level of understanding the data engineering, the layman terms, the definition, and why it is important. Any questions? Tomorrow we'll be looking into what are the technologies involved in data engineering. It will be every day at 6 o'clock. So every day 6 to 6:30 we are going to have live sessions, and the topic for tomorrow will be tools and technologies used for data engineering. Remember one thing, organizing the data from different data source, making sure that it is readily available for the systems is your role as a data engineer. And that is what we are going to see tomorrow. Okay. So thank you all. We'll meet again tomorrow in the live session at 6 o'clock.